Hello and welcome to News Central Television. I am Likon Onobanjo. The top stories at this hour. Armed policemen take over PDP headquarters in Abuja as two rival factions of the party gear up for parallel NEC meetings. Court grants Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan bail in high-profile defamation suit. South African refugees living in Cape Town COVID-19 shelter embark on protest over planned eviction. Details to come your way shortly. We begin the news in the federal. Also disallowed a member of the party's board of trustees, Mina Chiroma, from entering into the premises of the secretariat. An official of the party who spoke on the condition of anonymity said that the police were deployed to stop the proposed NEC expanded caucus meeting. Though some staff members of the party were initially allowed to go into the premises of the secretariat without any resistance from the police, they were later sent out. Some policemen were also seen cordoning off the Laba Street, which is the road leading to Wadata Plaza. Meanwhile, rival factions of the party were billed to hold parallel meetings today in Abuja. This agreement centers on the position of the National Secretary and the status of the 100th National Executive Committee meeting. Acting National Chairman Umar Damagum's camp has postponed the NEC and called for an expanded caucus meeting, reinstating Senator Samuel Anyanwu as the National Secretary. However, Deputy National Chairman South Taufik Arapaja and 11 National Working Committee members insist the NEC must proceed as scheduled, rejecting Anyanwu's reinstatement and labeling the expanded caucus meeting as unconstitutional. The Board of Trustees and other senior party figures back the NEC meeting, highlighting ongoing factional divisions and procedural disputes within the party. Our correspondent Joshua Mara is at the PDP Secretariat at the moment and he joins us live for more updates. Good morning to you, or should I say good afternoon to you, Joshua. It's nice to have you join us on the news at this time. So what is the situation with these proposed meeting?
Well, good afternoon to you, Nicole. Like you rightly said, security men have taken over the Wadata Plaza, that is the national headquarters of the PDP here in Abuja. And as you can see, a series of policemen who are standing by to ensure there is no breakdown of law and order. But earlier on, some of the president actually spoke to these policemen who said that they are here on authorities of high delegations from the top command. It is, however, unclear their reasons here, but we know that they are standing by here and they are mounting guard at the gate of the PDP here in the Federal Capital Territory. However, a few moments earlier, one of the chief things of the PDP, that is the president of Bodijo, spoke. And Bodijo said this is seeming to be like the hand of Esau and the voice of Jacob. That's the proverbial statement, but it is unclear what that statement means. He's saying that those who deploy the security men to this place have better things to do with their resources than to barricade the entrance of the national headquarters of the People's Democratic Party. So that is the situation here on ground at the Wadata Plaza.
That this particular meeting, whether a caucus meeting or the previous NEC meeting, they actually didn't get approval to use the Wadata Plaza for it.
Well, it is however unclear who has gotten approval because as of yesterday we received two memos. One from the National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, that's the person of Sam Anyanwu, and the other from Taufik Arapaja, that's the person of the Deputy National Chairman South of the People's Democratic Party. These two parties seems to be at crossroads on who is going to have its meeting here at the Wadata Plaza. One stated the expanded national caucus meeting for the same plaza at the NEC court, as well as the other parties taking the same meeting for this same venue here. But it's however unclear who is going to have the opportunity to hold Israel meeting here. This is another crisis that is actually bedeviling the People's Democratic Party at the moment, as this should be a test of peace to bring in the People's Democratic Party.
I'd like you to stay with me, Joshua, for a while. Let's listen to these video excerpts from Bode George, one of the chieftains of the PDP.
Was prevented from sitting down and discussing domestic problems, the family problems. We love it. That doesn't mean that there are no more other houses.
We spoke to some of the policemen who said that actually to maintain law and order because of the conflicting notices that we made yesterday.
Yes, and also that they got an order from above. So who is the above?
Legally, this is
what we call
whoever is between the order for the has been on both sides. So let me please allow sleeping. We have more problems, economic, financial, education, infrastructure. Are you saying the PDP it is the most politically working in this country?
Well, that's PDP chieftain there, Bode George, talking about the proposed or the proposed order that would have granted the party chieftains and, of course, members of the PDP to hold a meeting at the Wadata Plaza. But then before I call in our guest, I just quickly want to get clarification from our correspondent again, Joshua Imarai. So we are having issues with understanding if there was an order granting the PDP to hold its meeting, and now we're also having a faction that is saying that this meeting is unconstitutional. Now, in the midst of this disarray, what is the way forward now for the PDP leadership?
Well, it is for the PDP leadership to come out and state categorically who has the responsibility or the actual clearance or legitimacy to hold these meetings here at Wadata Plaza. Now, we are expecting the National Executive Council, led by the National Secretary and the chairman, the acting chairman of the PDP, that is the person of Umar Jamagu, to come out with a statement and state clearly who has the legitimacy to hold these meetings here. You recall that earlier when some members of the PDP visited the Independent National Electoral Commission at the headquarters, the chairman asked to clarify who is the National Secretary, saying that any memo that comes out of the party is supposed to be signed by the chairman and the National Secretary. Well, the National Secretary has signed a memo talking about an extended caucus meeting. By law, he is supposed to issue statements concerning the party, but unfortunately, the party seems to be absconding as the Deputy National Chairman, that's the president of Taufik Alakmaja, and the National Secretary of the party, that's Sam Anyanwu, coming out to contest whose work it votes way in this current situation. So we are expecting the chairman to come out and speak as regards the current situation happening here at the PDP National Secretariat in Abuja.
Sure, just stay with me for a while. Let's talk to our guests. Of course, we have Professor Simeon Anna, who is from the political development, who will be talking about the political development in the PDP, and he joins us virtually anyway to discuss this. Professor Anna, good afternoon to you. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon, viewers.
We can hear you, but then we're having some sort of an echo from your end. Can you please switch off your TV or any other device that might cause a feedback from your end, so that we can have some sort of clarity while engaging you? Okay, so we are going to try as much as possible to connect with Professor Nna and, of course, Joshua Marayi as we look at the issue around the PDP crisis. But then we're still looking at party politics from the point of the APC North Central Zone that has actually demanded the position of the national chairman to be zoned to their region following the resignation of Umar Ganduje as the party's national chairman. And stakeholders from Kogi, Benue, Nasarawa and other North Central states insist the party's zoning arrangement favors their claim. In Benue, both APC factions, one loyal to the SGF, George Akume, the other to Governor Hyacinth Alia, agree the chairmanship should go to the North Central. Meanwhile, APC stakeholders in Nasarawa under the All Progressives Congress Forum, led by Alhaji Saleh Zazaga, have endorsed former Governor Tanko Al-Makura for the role, citing extensive consultations within the region. The contest for the vacant chairmanship is intensifying as regional leaders push for representation. Away from that, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has been granted bail upon arraignment at the Abuja Federal High Court in a defamation suit. The suspended senator, also a barrister, was released on self-recognisance due to her status as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Supreme Court lawyer. She faces charges related to alleged defamatory statements against the Senate president and a former governor during a live television broadcast. The case was being adjourned to September 27, 2025 for further hearing. The courts required one surety of reasonable integrity residing in Abuja with landed property. Akpoti-Uduaghan pleaded not guilty to the charges, and the trial continues amid significant public and legal interest. And now we still have our correspondent, Joshua Marayi, who is on standby to also get clarity on the issue with the suspended Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan and her court case. Joshua, I'd like you to give us an update as regards what the court actually did say in terms of the allegations leveled against the Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan.
For Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan, this is another fresh case of defamation, as opposed to the one that was instituted at the Federal Capital Territory High Court, and she's being charged on the penal code at the level of the Abuja High Court. But now at the Federal High Court here in Abuja, she's being charged on cybercrime, violation of the Cybercrimes Act, and allegedly inciting comments against the person of the President of the Senate, that is the person of Godswill Akpabio, and the former Kogi State Governor, that is the person of Yahaya Bello. Well, in court today, she was read out. They read out 6 count charges against her, on which she pleaded not guilty, and the lawyer representing her actually needs to be applied to the court to grant her bail based on self-recognisance, saying that she is a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and as well as a barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Well, this particular request was not opposed by the Council of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is the person of the DPP speaking in this case. And the judge, however, ruled in her favor, saying that she is being granted bail on the issue of self-recognizance and for the fact that she is a service senator and she poses no slight risk for the case to continue. The case has, however, been adjourned to the 22nd of September for continuation of trial. And I should let you to know that she also has another case at the Abuja High Court, bordering on defamation also. For that particular case, is relying on the penal code to prosecute her, while here at the Federal High Court, they are relying on the Cybercrime Act to prosecute her on this particular charges.
The senator, that is Akpoti-Uduaghan, having to run through 2 legal cases in court. I don't know what the counsels are saying, because it's been said in some quarters that this is an attempt to actually stifle her voice, even as she's pressing charges against the Senate president.
Yes, the senator, that is the person of Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan, is also maintaining the same stance that this is another attempt to stifle our voice. Notwithstanding, we are expecting the Federal High Court this week, particularly on Friday, particularly Justice Binta Yako, to pronounce a judgment on her suspension suit. So this is another legal intricacy that has come into play. This is a power play between two senators, and particularly some vested interest in this case. They are trying to see if they could have anything to do in the court. Only if the court the court now will have to put that case. They have to put that case in the court, and those who are to give judgment are the judges of the said court. And we are expecting judgment later this week on a suspension, and also subsequently on the defamation case against her being brought to court by the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
As regards the allegations she leveled against the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, of course, you've been covering the court cases. Would you say that the evidences that have been presented so far, if any has actually been presented, are actually tenable and can actually give credence to the veracity of the claims against the person of Akpabio?
Nico, I will tell you sufficiently and on good authority that no case of alleged sexual harassment has been brought before any court of jurisdiction. The only case we have in the court now is the one challenging a suspension from the Senate. No case of sexual harassment has been brought before any court, and the only case we have is that of she challenging the Senate of a suspension, saying it is illegal, that they have no right to suspend her, and she was not given fair hearing. You recall earlier that the Federal High Court in Abuja issued a restraining order from the Senate for the Senate from taking any disciplinary action against her. That particular order was violated by the Senate Ethics Committee led by Senator Nedai Maxwell. So that a particular case is in court and awaiting judgment. It is a consolidated case that has been brought before the court, before Honorable Justice Binta Yako, and she's expected to give ruling on the alleged contempt by the Senate, as well as the alleged contempt against by her too, and as well as the suspension of her from the Senate.
Thank you so much, Joshua Marai, for the clarification. We appreciate your response to these issues, of course, before the court. Appreciate that. Let's go on a break right now. When we return, Northern Elders Forum calls for state of emergency in northern Nigeria over worsening insecurity. We'll tell you more in a short while. Don't go away. We're staying on developments in Abuja. Tensions are running high at the Federal Capital Territory Administration, where staff under the Joint Union Action Committee and other trade unions have staged a mass protest calling for urgent government action. The aggrieved workers on Monday barricaded the entrance of the FCTA Secretariat in Abuja, demanding the payment of outstanding wage award arrears, timely promotions, access to training, and improved work tools. The anger is also directed at the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, whom they accuse of worsening their conditions. They insist that the current leadership has shown disregard. And now to security matters. There was jubilation in some parts of Nigeria's north-central region over the weekend following the good news of successfully rescuing about 13 passengers abducted from a Benue Links bus at AK in Opoku local government area of Benue State. The rescue was a joint effort led by police and local vigilante groups, supported by youths from neighboring Kogi State, who increased pressure on the kidnappers. The kidnappers abandoned the victims at Oando village on Sunday afternoon. The rescue follows intense forest combing and security operations after the bus was ambushed on June 22. Still talking insecurity, but this time on a sad note, as 4 mobile policemen were feared dead in a fresh Sunday afternoon armed herders attack on Uday community in Guma local government area of Benue State. Uday community is less than 15 minutes a drive from the Yelwata community that was equally invaded over 2 weeks ago by armed bandits. It was gathered that the marauders who launched the attacks at about 11 a.m. also attempted to storm neighboring Daudu, but were repelled by a combined team of security agencies and the youths in the area. They were said to have invaded the Ashar community, where they shot sporadically, chasing people away from their farms, and it eventually escalated to Ortese, which is home to thousands of internally displaced persons. Let's also tell you that Governor Caleb Mutfwang of Plateau State has described Nigeria's lingering insecurity as a problem created and sustained by the country's elite. Speaking at a stakeholder meeting in Plateau State, Mutfwang said the elite have contributed to deepening communal divisions and must take responsibility for reversing the trend. He noted that while the poisoning of minds may often start at the community level, the elite have the power to halt such narratives if they choose to do so. Mutfwang urged Nigeria's elite to take greater responsibility in promoting unity and peaceful coexistence. He reaffirmed his administration's commitment to dismantling artificial barriers of faith and ethnicity, which he argued have long hindered development in Plateau State. Away from security matters, a federal government delegation has arrived in Saudi Arabia ahead of the burial of Nigerian business mogul and elder statesman Aminu Dantata. Dantata, one of Nigeria's most influential industrialists and philanthropists, passed away while in the kingdom for medical treatment. The delegation is in the country to pay last respects and represents the Nigerian government at the funeral, which will take place in accordance with Islamic rites. Dantata's death has drawn tributes from across the country, with many praising his legacy of enterprise, philanthropy, and national service. Now, we tell you that across the world, climate change remains one of the biggest threats to livelihoods, agriculture, and national stability. In Nigeria, desertification is advancing, weather patterns are changing, and communities are facing harsher living conditions, particularly in the north and around oil-producing regions. One of the driving forces behind this crisis is methane, a greenhouse gas that is quietly accelerating climate change far faster than carbon dioxide. News Central's Sagir Ibrahim brings us details in this explainer.
The flooding incident in Mokwa, Niger State, where unfortunately figures show that over 700 individuals are missing. You might also have heard about recent attacks and farmer herders clashes in Benue State. There's also the issue of heat waves up north and also sandstorms becoming a norm. But all of this, according to experts, can be traced to climate change and the major culprit, an increase in emissions of methane. What is methane gas? Let's explain it to you.
Methane is a powerful but invisible gas. Though less talked about than carbon dioxide, it traps 80 times more heat in the short term, and it's a major driver of extreme weather, heat waves, and flooding. In Nigeria, the energy sector, especially oil and gas, accounts for over a third of methane emissions, mostly from gas flaring and venting.
Methane emissions are very, very important for us to control and to understand when it comes to fighting climate change. It's silent, it's odorless, colorless, you can hardly detect it, but the damage it causes is quite intense.
Until recently, tracking these emissions was almost impossible. But in 2023, a new standard from the global EITI framework implemented by NATI in Nigeria finally forced oil companies to report their emissions. 15 companies responded, including major players like Chevron and Mobil, but more than 47 others failed to disclose any data, raising concerns about compliance and transparency.
In 2023, 80 updated the standards, and for the first time, we now have disaggregated GHG emissions at company level that we can now track and monitor to see how much progress we are making when it comes to methane emission reductions in Nigeria.
Some disclosures are promising. However, anomalies remain despite these corporations' net zero pledges.
we would like to see more compliance, and that's why we call on industry regulators to ensure that oil and gas companies in the sector begin to comply with making this data available to the public.
But how does this affect the everyday Nigerian? From extreme heat and crop failures to violent displacement, methane-driven climate change is already hitting home.
We now have more flood. Because of the increased temperature, we now have increased rainfalls, coupled with our own local infrastructural challenges. We have more stronger winds, higher winds that are causing havoc, destroying homes, destroying houses. Heat strokes are very, very dangerous. In Africa, there were several heat strokes in 2023, which increased in 2024. We also have challenges in the agriculture. With increase in temperature, it affects agricultural output, which means that food security in Nigeria, which is a problem, that will also be a bigger problem.
Even herder-farmer clashes are linked to methane-driven desertification.
There is a desertification in northern Nigeria, and because of that, available land for grazing is reducing. So we now have farmer herders moving down southward. These now begin to manifest in clashes between genuine herders and farmers because of the contest for limited resources.
Beyond NATI's effort, Nigeria has frameworks like the Nigeria Gas Decarbonization Program, but without full enforcement, these policies remain words on paper. Satellite tracking and civil society watchdog may soon play a bigger role in exposing companies that underreport or dodge responsibility.
We can now compare that data with satellite imagery, satellite data, then we can now hold more people accountable and ensure that they comply with emission reduction standards.
So, while floods, heat waves, and food insecurity may seem like separate problems, they all share a root cause: rising emissions, and methane is a silent driver. The challenge now is for Nigeria to match its climate pledges with real policy enforcement, because when the air we can't see becomes the danger we can't control, every second counts. In Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
Now we tell you that the World Health Organization, WHO, and the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, say vaccination remains the easiest and most fundamental means of preventing many communicable diseases across the globe. This was restated during the 2025 Maternal, Newborn and Child Health Week, a biannual campaign program organized by UNICEF, the National Primary Healthcare Agency, in collaboration with state agencies and partners, held in Jos, the Plateau State capital. The Central's Chizobanyowe tells us more.
UNICEF and other partners are here to raise awareness on the importance of vaccination against polio and the human papilloma virus for girls between the ages of 9 to 14 years.
Is basically to pull attention to the importance of immunizing our children against polio, immunizing our 9-year-old girls against human papilloma virus, and also boosting the supplementation of vitamin A and other antenatal drugs that are given to pregnant women. We try as much as possible to get all our campaigns that are happening to overlap with each other, and we converge and integrate so that we make use of resources, both human resources and financial resources, for the betterment of the children of Nigeria. And that's why we're integrating MNCH Week with the polio campaign and the HPV campaign.
Partners urge parents to support this move, considering that thousands of children are suffering from polio and other communicable diseases.
This commitment will be translated into a polio-free community in Jos North local government, and a local government that is also free of all vaccine-preventable diseases.
The exercise is going to take place today up to Monday, though we have also a mop-up that will take place Monday and Tuesday. The exercise is supposed to finish 4 days, but we are having 2 days extra for mop-up. This exercise has been taking place not only today. So no, I don't think we are going to have any rejection. Every woman is expected to bring her child out for this vaccine because it's very important, as it will boost their immunity and keep them strong and healthy. different organizations that have checked it and have certified that they are all good for their body and is not harmful in any way.
Effective coordination and collaboration at the national, state and local levels is one of the best responses to many communicable diseases, with stakeholders harping on prevention, which they say is not only better but cheaper than cure. In Plateau State for News Central, Chizoba Anyoe.
Let's now go on our short break. When we return, we'll bring you more stories. Do stay with us. And now we go back to the story about the PDP and its caucus meeting. Of course, we understand that both factions have been barred from having to use the Wadata Plaza to hold the proposed NEC meeting that should have been held today. And of course, to give more perspective to this political crisis, most especially internal crisis within the opposition party, the PDP, we have Simeon Na, who is a professor and will also be sharing, of course, his insights with us this afternoon. Professor Na, thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Thank you, and good afternoon, viewers.
We are glad to finally have you. So let's begin with the deepening internal crisis in the PDP. I mean, two rival factions were built to hold a parallel NEC meeting today in Abuja, but then they were not allowed to access the headquarters. How does this come to you?
You can see that there's an external influence that is working out here because the Damagu faction, that's the chairman and the suspended, I don't know whether suspended secretary now or the secretary, I don't know which one to call it. I'm referring to Anyanwu, you know, are insisting on expanded NEC meeting, while the faction of the Governors Forum, led by Makinde, is insisting on NEC meeting. I don't see any farce in this NEC meeting or extended NEC meeting. You see, you can see that it is just to create a ruse in the political party. Now, when the parties went to court, or when the party rather went to court, when I mean parties now, I mean the different factions of the same party went to court, what the court said, and the Supreme Court for that matter, that it is an internal problem of the party. So if it's an internal problem of the party, why is the police and the national security this is coming to, you know, stop them from entering their headquarters? So you can see there's an external influence. See, let nobody be fooled here. The person that is causing the problem just get out of the country and ensured that this meeting does not hold. Because if this meeting holds, peradventure, it could be what will bring the party together. I think the priority here is to ensure that this political party does not hold sway. Because if you look at it now, there's no party that is having a base. PDP is having crisis, Labour is having crisis, SDP that has never had crisis before is not having crisis. So you can see what I mean, that there's an external influence that is making sure that there's no opposition. And that is what is playing out here.
So when we talk about external, Professor, now when we talk about external influence, who or what are you referring to?
The person that was supposed to be their secretary. And Damagu before was not supporting Anyanwu, but because he was brought in by Wike, he has now supported Anyanwu. You see the problem? So there's a Wike faction now, and there's a Makinde faction. And that's what is causing the problem. Now, what stops them? If they want to have an extended NEC meeting, is that a problem? But if the NEC, I think that the highest lawmaking body of the party is the NEC. If the NEC says they want to have a NEC meeting, why must somebody else come and say, no, it has to be an extended NEC meeting? That's why some of us observers are saying, I'm not a card-carrying member of any political party, but I can see what is playing out here, that somebody is playing the drum that PDP is dancing. That is the truth.
All right, so I'd like to actually find out, okay, well, probably we just need to end the conversation right here. Maybe some other time we'll do more on it because we're actually constrained by time at this particular point. Professor Simeon, and thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the news. Okay, so at this time we go to the Federal Capital Territory where we continue to bring you details of the infrastructural developments that we've seen, of course, being championed by the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike in Abuja. Now, this time there's the official commissioning of the AFCC Academy at Giri Road, and we'll be bringing you the live feeds right now.